Hello, Archie Dunlop here with Talking Astrology with Archie on Thursday, June the 6th, 2024. I'm afraid this video is going to be heavily degraded. I'm not going to have any section on the 12 signs, and I'm not really going to have much of a topic to talk about. Reason being that yesterday was complete chaos. I was trying to get through to a city council meeting by Zoom regarding an oak tree that was about to be cut down. It was in the city of Tumwater, where there was this really old oak tree that's very important to the community, and the city had decided it should be cut down because it's a danger, just because a branch fell. And I wanted to make a public comment, and that took much longer than expected. And then I did try to do my recording, and I had computer problems, and things just didn't work. Now, if you want to know why things didn't work, well, you know what? I think the answer is that Sun-Cazimi conjunction with Venus. Remember how I was quite positive about Sun being conjunct Venus, and how because of the Cazimi nature, because it was exact. Well, I talked to people about what kind of experience they had over the last day or two, and you know what? I don't think the supposed benefic effects of Cazimi actually worked. I think that exact conjunction between Sun and Venus was simply bad. And that's the way I see it. At least that's my subjective perspective. And in terms of the people I talked to, it also seemed to be difficult. Now, the only real topic that I do want to consider very briefly, I was going to talk about the Indian elections, but I haven't really had a chance. That's a dog. Dog's got plenty to bark about, even though it's a short video. And my topic is just going to be a quick comparison of Boris Johnson and Nigel Farage. It's to do with the issue of fire. And I think that they do illustrate the difference between having a lot of fire and having little or no fire. So I'm going to make that comparison. But first of all, I want to look at the picture today, what's happening, before I look at the I Ching. Remember, I'm not doing anything for the 12 signs. So here we have the positions of the planets at noon. And you can see there's a new moon at 16 Gemini, and really that new moon is what today is all about. That new moon which is conjunct Venus, and this new moon for many of us is about a new beginning. It's the new moon in Gemini, and we might have new ideas, new possibilities, and so we might have a general sense of optimism. But we should not forget that this new moon is square Saturn. So to begin with, things might be a bit slow, and we might have high hopes for rapid progress, but I don't think that that is going to be realized. I don't think that's possible. You see, complete chaos. Sun conjunct Venus is just not conducive to making videos. But I'm going to carry on. So Saturn is square the Sun-Venus conjunction, and that is could cause problems with this new moon. And it's not just about today; it's about the next 2 weeks, the next fortnight. The idea of new beginnings, but really difficult new beginnings, to the extent where they might not actually get off the ground. A couple of midpoints to talk about, and that is the fact that the Sun and Venus are both on Jupiter-Neptune midpoint. Some people have high hopes. They believe that things can really work, and that's nice, but there is plenty of scope for total over-optimism, relying on faith. And faith really is of limited value. So let me now turn to the heliocentric picture. So let me change the coordinate system to make everything heliocentric. There we go, with the Sun in the center of the solar system. So we still have an Earth-Venus opposition, and which is aspecting Saturn. So although that heliocentric T-square involving Earth, Venus and Saturn is separating, it's still very active, and maybe that's why I was having such a difficult day yesterday. Really difficult to get things done. So that's the broad picture. Just a reminder that Jupiter is on the absolute verge of moving into Gemini heliocentrically. I don't think heliocentric sign changes are that important, but of course when Jupiter moves into Gemini, it will be making that trine to Pluto. So this is a great time for self-improvement. I now am going to move to the I Ching, and I asked the question, what is Thursday going to be like for those watching the I Ching segment of this video? And the first hexagram I got was hexagram 2, which is the receptive. So it's not a time for taking the initiative. It's about just soaking it all up and seeing what's going on. Let other people take the initiative. Then you might get some idea about whether these initiatives succeed or fail. Because, if we try to be the first mover, then I think it's unlikely that anything will get done, and it could end up being a rather disappointing day. And I think that it's so important that, we realize that the mature thing is to do nothing, to just keep a low profile. Though at a certain stage, I think we can show ourselves to be genuine. Genuineness is actually what people want. People don't want show today. They just want us to be completely sincere, open, above board, and honest, and they certainly won't appreciate it if we try to push anyone around. Just be ourselves, and we don't have to force our personality onto anyone. Yet, we may be aware as the day progresses that there is a little bit of a struggle going on. It may not be a struggle that involves us directly, but the top line is moving. Top line, there are actually 3 lines that are moving. The 3rd line from the bottom, the 5th line from the bottom, and the top line. So they're all moving. And with the top line moving, there are 2 forces that are attacking each other. The imagery there is of 2 dragons. The idea that one dragon is like the forces of good and the other is the forces of evil, and they're in competition. And yes, the forces of good are trying their hardest, but in the process of trying to defeat the forces of evil, they are getting hurt. So if we feel that we want to get involved in a battle for whatever reason, and I'm not saying this is the right thing to do, because it is hexagram 2, the receptive, but if we find ourselves forced into a struggle or a conflict, then we're not going to get out of it unscathed. Because the moment we have an impact, that means that we are engaged and we are vulnerable, and we need to be ready to take damage. And this hexagram, the 2, receptive, it does move. It moves to hexagram 53. And hexagram 53 is about development. So it does seem that if we behave in the right way, if we don't exaggerate, if we're modest, if we avoid taking the initiative, then slowly but surely we can start to make an impact. We shouldn't expect immediate results, but those results will eventually come our way. And that's it with the I Ching. It needn't be dramatic, and you don't have to get involved in any big fights, arguments, struggles if you don't want to. But if you do get involved, then yes, you should accept that you probably won't come out of it unscathed. You may have to take a bit of damage. Now, In terms of astrology, going back to these two charts, I did quickly want to talk about Nigel Farage and Boris Johnson, but only from one perspective, and that is from the element of fire. And I think that the fire, well, the elements in general, are very useful for getting an idea about the overall picture. So here's Nigel Farage. So you can see in Farage's chart that there is a lot of fire here. So you can see that we've got Sun in Aries, we've got Mars in Aries, we've got Jupiter in Aries, we've got Moon in Sagittarius. So that really is a huge amount of fire. And because of that fire, Nigel Farage speaks with conviction. He doesn't have any air in his chart. He's not the kind of person that sort of weighs up the competing arguments and decides which way he's going to go in a leisurely kind of way. No, fire makes an immediate gut distinction. Sorry, an immediate gut decision. And there's no waiting period, no time required to make decisions. Fire just knows. Remember, Carl Jung, Leo, was asked whether he believed in God. He said basically no, because he knew God exists. Likewise, Nigel Farage knows. He knows what is right. He knows what is right about immigration. He knows what is right about the European Union. He knows what is right about Brexit. He knows what is right about the British economy and its society. He just knows. And because he just knows, it makes him so much more convincing. People aren't going to be really convinced by someone who isn't really sure of themselves. By someone like me, who's always sort of weighing up the arguments. It's not really convincing. But if you're Nigel Farage, it's very clear. Now, you compare that with Boris Johnson. So, Boris Johnson's chart here, he has no fire at all. He's all air. Mars, Mercury, Sun and Venus in air signs. So that indicates that he has a certain flexibility. So when he was deciding in, 2015 or 2016, whether or not to support Brexit, he wasn't sure. He could see the idea, he could see the arguments one way or another. Then he made the decision to support Brexit, even though he'd originally supported Remain. So there is a lack of conviction, and I think that in terms of him as Prime Minister, you have to ask, did he really have any strong ideas that he really believed in? And the answer is possibly no. It was all just bold statements, maybe just hot air, but we never really knew what was fundamentally important to him. And I think that really is the difference between Boris Johnson and Nigel Farage. Nigel Farage, with all that fire, is working on the basis of intuition. He just knows. Whereas Boris Johnson, he is all over the place. He's got air. He's thinking things through, and he never stays in one place for too long. Whereas with Nigel Farage, he's stuck at it in terms of supporting Brexit. For the last 20 years and more, he's just been delivering the same message. Let's stay away. Let's steer clear of the European Union. And never, of course, been a big fan of immigration. So he's kept to that message. The fire has kept burning. Whereas with Boris Johnson, with all that air, he's just not committed to anything, really, except perhaps himself. And that's all I wanted to say. I'm really sorry this video is so brief, but I think this has been important because it has demonstrated that to me that the Sun-Venus conjunction, even though it's Kazemi, has just been bad. And it's kind of affecting me in the sense that, I have got Taurus rising. I know I go on about being a Gemini, and I sort of feel the sign Gemini feels more important to me than the sign Taurus, but I have Taurus rising. And so maybe from an ascendant point of view, Venus represents me, and Venus was conjunct the Sun, just completely burnt out. Things just were not working. Anyway, treat it as an intermission, and don't worry, I'm back. I'm just sorry this video is so short, but I suppose it is the case that things do happen. So if by any chance, by the way, you happen to like this video, I don't think there's anything to like in this video at all, but if you happen to like it, of course, I'd be grateful if you were to like it. And if you're not subscribed, then please subscribe, though I'm sure this isn't really a very good advertisement for myself. And yes, I have to say, yeah, thanks for listening. If you could be bothered, but sorry this video is so short. Far and away one of my worst videos, but I thought I had to put out something. So thanks for listening, and I will talk to you again tomorrow.